The following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the May 21st meeting of the Cary Town Council, and at this time I'll recognize Councilmember Robinson for our ceremonial opening.
Yes, please join me as we pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. For item 2, recognitions, reports, and presentations, and there are none. So we'll move right into Public Speaks Out. Public Speaks Out has included instructions for speaking at this forum on the printed agenda. If you'd like to speak, please take a seat in the rows to my right that are shown as reserved and follow the instructions on the agenda. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes for their comments, and speakers may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing. There's a 3-minute time limit, as I said, and there's a timer on the podium. And when the green light turns yellow, that means there's 30 seconds remaining. And when the time expires, the light will turn into a flashing red light. And at that time, I'll interrupt you, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. Public Speaks Out has a 1-hour time limit. I thank all of our speakers in advance for adhering to the 3-minute time limit. We also ask that groups have a spokesperson to speak on behalf of the entire group to reduce repetitive comments. I thank everyone in the audience for respecting that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seat, or anything else that may distract from the meeting. So now's the time for Public Speaks Out, and I would invite the first speaker to the podium at this time. Could I get you to move to your left? Thank you.
I always get that wrong every time. Good evening. I'm here. By the way, my name is Bobby Flake. I'm here on behalf of the skate park and the master plan project that we were underway with. Over the past year or so, I've had the privilege and the honor to be able to work with your staff to produce a master plan that hopefully will be implemented soon. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been great. These guys have been wonderful to work with. It's been a very positive experience. Tonight, the staff will recommend option B of the master plan, which is a good plan. It has some much needed improvements to the park. However, the only thing that's missing from it is really the only thing we've ever asked for, right? So it's the vert ramp that we've been asking for over the last couple of years. And honestly, I understand why they've made this recommendation. On paper, it doesn't look very good, right? So everyone they've talked to outside of us parent group have basically indicated it's a bad idea. It's not getting well utilized and that sort of thing. Now, we believe that Skate Cary is different from most of these places in that we are a staffed park. We have, enthusiastic mentors and are able to provide programs to help transition younger kids who are now beyond intermediate up to the advanced to transition from these smaller ramps into these bigger ones. We have some great kids there who are really talented, and we have some great staff there that can help them do that. In addition, I think we believe that athletes from around the region would come and visit our park and take advantage of it as well, which would bring in revenue and so on. I think I covered myself. One other thing is we believe, we've actually recommended to staff that if you build a vert ramp, we'd have graduating levels to it. So it would have a smaller level for the new kids start off on and work their way up. So it wouldn't be such a big transition. So again, we think it's a really good item to have, and we think it would be very well utilized at the park. And my final comment is the vert ramp is really the only thing on the master plan that would differentiate Skate Cary from any other park in the area. Everything that's on option B at this point is available 20 minutes down the road. So we would encourage you to listen to your passionate parents and so on, and really think twice before adopting option B. We'd encourage you to consider C or some other options. But thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Love that part. Hey, thanks again for allowing us to speak. My name's Denny Gunther. I am a father and a town citizen and a skateboarder since 1984, and we can go into that. But what I'm going to go into is what we love the park and we love the programs. We believe heavily in the staff and the programs that we already have set up. I believe we are hoping that we will get option C, which brings the vert ramp, which what it ultimately does is bring exclusivity to Skate Cary. It actually creates a training ground for these young guys. This is just a couple of the guys that when they go to other parks with these types of ramps, they ride better than the local kids at these other parks. And they're like, where did these guys come from? We say, Skate Cary. Oh, well, how often do you ride vert? Probably once a year, because that's about the amount of times we get to go ride vert ramps. But the cool thing about our park, I think the data that was collected is it doesn't accurately portray our park. What has been, they called other parks to find out, what vert ramps, how vert ramps operate and how they're doing at other parks. Well, what they found was at most of the other parks, they have a big vert ramp and then they have like a 6-foot tall small ramp that you don't make the jump from a tiny ramp. You can imagine standing on something 14 feet tall as opposed to 6 feet tall. I mean, it's completely different. Well, our park, it says specifically that the existing skate park features do not support the necessary training to best utilize this type of feature. That I find that is not a correct statement at all. We have everything from 1 foot to 9 feet, and these kids and young men and young women that ride this 9-foot ramp, they can drop in on the 14-footers all day long. They can do it, and we've proved it. These guys go and do ramp contests at other parks and win them. And we just want to be able to give these guys the chance. The comparisons that we should have been made to were parks more like KTR in Arizona. It's called Kids That Rip. They have programs based around this type of ramp. And these guys are on the national circuit. These kids, they came to Raleigh when Tony Hawk came, and our guys skated right with them and held their own. It was amazing. And we don't even have a vert ramp. It's shocking how well they ride compared to these other guys. Rye Airfield in Massachusetts, they have a big park. They have programs. The parks that we were compared to, one would have been Mount Trashmore in Virginia Beach. It's an epic place, but they have this small bowl and a big giant ramp, and they have 5 old guys that ride it and like 3 young kids that ride it with them. But when we show up, we have a carload of guys, and when they come down and ride with us, they're like, wow, you guys need this. We've even had them say that we'll come down there every weekend. You've got a way better scene than we have. So I think we really hope that you guys consider option C, because it will bring exclusivity.
Sorry, I've got a couple.
Are we done? Are we
right
done?
here.
Well, thank you again so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Kim Womack, and you've seen me before. I've been at every meeting. The first one was in February of 2013. We came and asked you for the vert ramp. And I was also involved in the master plan group and all of that. We met with that group a couple of weeks ago, and they told us ahead of time what they were going to propose to you guys. There was an option A, B, and C. A, I don't think anybody supported. B, the master plan group liked for the same reasons that Denny was saying, and Bob also, that the research they had done did not show support for the vert ramp. And again, none of us feel that that applies to Cary. Cary is different. But anyway, and we appreciate everything that the master plan group has done and all of the research that they did. But we asked, the thing that we wanted in the beginning was the vert ramp, and option B doesn't include that. Option C does, and it's great. It's got a lot of cool things in it. We're hoping that the biggest thing that we leave with is that ramp. It's the one thing that will advance our children, you know, help them along and push them to do better. I know that one of the ramps that they had researched was Mount Trashmore, and we've been there. And it's like Denny said, when we go there and our kids skate this ramp, the kids that skate the park right beside Trashmore come and watch our kids, and they're like, wow, how are you skating this? There's no transition between that park and that huge ramp. There's nothing that teaches them the in-between. Our kids do not have access to a vert ramp every single day like these kids, and our kids can skate it because we have those transitions that are pushing them to that. Anyway, and again, we understand that you guys want to be good stewards of the town's money. We are all for that. But sometimes it's not all about the money. Sometimes it's, you know, it's about investing in the future, and those kids are the future. So thank you for your time. And we did enjoy working with the master plan group. Everybody was extremely nice, very professional. They did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Len Neiman. I ride C-Tran, and I'd just like to comment on 2 things real quick. Number 1 is last month I had the opportunity to attend the town's School of Government, which is something unique that I've never run into anywhere else I've ever lived, and I highly recommend it to other people. And I'd like to thank Lena Higg and the staff involved for the time they put into that. And anybody who wants to find out how hard it is to pick up a garbage bin sitting next to a recycle bin that aren't at least 3 feet apart, sign up for the school and you can find out. Second thing is the discussion item 6-1 on High Meadow. One thing I did not see discussed in there is the exit in front of Trader Joe's onto Cary Parkway, and the way people coming out that exit will come across 2 lanes of traffic to try and get into the left turn lane, especially during rush hours, and sit there backing everybody up. And I would suggest as part of this, installing a concrete divider so people can't do that to get to the left lane. And if they want to go south on Kildare Farm Road, let them go out the exit on Kildare Farm Road where the light is and turn left there to go south. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Beth Warner Sullivan. I'm here to speak on behalf of the skate park. Okay. Skateboarding started in the 1950s by surfers that wanted to surf the streets. Almost a year ago, I stood in front of you and read a statement with tears in my eyes that my son Nolan had written. At the time, I played it off as my own words, as he was employed by the town as a skate park instructor and not allowed to speak. Now, I don't think he would mind if I was telling you that I was reading his words. I believe he called the skate park his home and the people his family, his friends that he's made, his friends for life. I realize I've been told, or have been told by the town, I realize or have been told that part of the deal with the park when it was started was a small fee would be charged to keep the park current or go towards improvements made. What started as asking for a vert ramp blew up into something bigger, maybe better. The skate park community was determined to show that this park is a good thing, different from most, capable of generating money with updates. To survive, this park needs this. I know we have all talked ourselves to death to prove this to the council. Skateboarding is not a fad. It's not a dying sport. Our town park needs a facelift to survive. I can't describe to you the look of defeat on my son's face when I told him that it looked like the improvements to the park were off the table for now and possibly for good. A kick to the gut after all that's gone on and been talked about over the past few years. Thank you to several parents here for bending over backwards to bring this to the town's attention. In my opinion, the skate park is doomed if not made current soon. In my opinion, that will make some people happy because the sport of skateboarding does not fit into your box of what a sport should be. In my opinion, there is room for this town to do this. There is a way, it just has to be wanted. In my opinion, we need to start thinking outside the box. I raise my glass to Apex for supporting its skateboard community and their families for believing in this sport. And I want to raise my glass to the town of Cary for believing in the sport of skateboarding. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Is Apex building a vert ramp?
I didn't think there was a vert ramp yet, but I'm not sure. I think it's a private venture. I think it's private. It's either there or no Swing Valley's.
Good evening, Jay Canick with Regency Centers. I'm here to talk about 6.1 on the agenda this evening. When last I was here in September, I expressed concern about not having been consulted regarding the changes on High Meadows Drive, being the property owners of the Trader Joe's Shopping Center. I do want to let you know that we're here to support the staff's recommendation that will be put forth this evening, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Very professional and flexible, and I think we've arrived at a reasonable and productive accommodation. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Any other speakers for Public Speaks Out?
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Larkins. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a frequent skate park goer at Skate Cary for the town of Cary. I've attended Skate Cary since I was 9 years old, and it has done many things for me. One of which has gotten me out of my box as I speak before you today. But Skate Cary has brought me from a large transition from who I was at 9 years old to who I was at 16. And that is not only in terms of personality, but in skateboarding. It was the only sport that fit into me. Many children who are moving out of team sports and exploring these extreme sports as a different option and an alternative in expressing themselves turn to skateboarding at Skate Cary because it's a faculty-run park. It's an extremely wonderful place for children to grow and develop in terms of skateboarding and personality. However, as the golden age of Skate Cary has kind of diminished in terms of many of the skaters have moved on, these skaters are getting so good. It's crazy how much these people have progressed. Just in the few short years they've been able to attend Skate Cary. They move on and on to bigger things. This economy is not good for Skate Cary. It needs to progress to fit the needs of the skaters. As these kids go on and move to other places, they travel throughout the state, and even on a larger scale, nationally. Kids go up to Virginia, up to California, up to Pennsylvania to skate these larger ramps. In order for Skate Cary to maintain its profitable environment and to help these kids in need of this vert ramp, this vert ramp will take what's in Pennsylvania, it'll take what's in California and in Virginia Beach, and bring it all down to North Carolina right here. More so than that, it'll draw people from those other places who see this park here. It's a wonderful facility that has everything from the ground basics to what the vert ramp will bring is the highest level of skateboarding that we can offer here. That'll draw people from all over the place. What this will do is allow Skate Cary to become a very prosperous settlement, as if it isn't already, but it'll allow the skate park and the kids in it to grow far beyond what they're able to do now. Skate Cary has reached the max of its auspicious children, and it needs to grow a little bit more. Just a little bit more to fit these kids' needs and their desires and to bring other people in. The vert ramp is the answer to the solution. I thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, I'll close Public Speaks Out. We now move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to review our consent agenda items. One vote approves all of these items. After reading the items, I'll ask council members if they would like to pull any of these items for discussion. On the consent agenda, we have minutes, Town of Cary Operations Plan and Wake County Emergency Operations Plan, position, classification, and pay study, recognition of federal forfeiture funds, owner-initiated annexation petitions for Jeffrey M. and Gina L. Wall, 15A07, and West Cary Holding LLC, 15A05. Ridgefield Farms rezoning and its consistency and reasonableness statement, 14REZ17. 2015 Wake County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Amendment to Interlocal Agreement for Wake County Transit Investment Strategy. Agreement for Signal Plan Revisions, North Carolina Department of Transportation. Rescue Water Service Request for 6006 Yates Mill Pond Road. Are there any items from the consent agenda that council members want pulled for discussion?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to item 5, which is public hearings. Public hearings have the same rules as Public Speaks Out with one exception. Instead of 3 minutes to speak, speakers now have 5 minutes. Our first public hearing is on the 2016 fiscal year budget, and Mr. Knapp will present this item. We'll open the public hearing, and council will not take action on this item this evening. We will conduct another public hearing on the budget on June 11th. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. The fiscal year 2016 recommended budget was officially presented at your meeting on May 5th and has been available since then on the town's website, here at Town Hall in the clerk's office, and at the local libraries on Academy Street and Lewis Stevens. Tonight's public hearing on the budget is the first of 2 opportunities that residents will have to comment publicly on the recommended budget. The second hearing will take place at the regular council meeting on Thursday, June 11th. Earlier this week, council conducted a work session to review and discuss the capital budget. 2 additional work sessions are scheduled, one for June 11th at 4:30 and one for June 16th at 6 o'clock. Both sessions will be held in the council workroom here at Town Hall. Council is scheduled to adopt the budget at the regular meeting on June 25th. Following tonight's public hearing on the budget, no council action is necessary. With that, Mayor, I turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for the public hearing on the budget. Now I'd invite the first speaker forward.
Hello. This is my first time up here, so I'm a little nervous, so just bear with me, please. I come here tonight to
Can you give us your name first?
Oh, Kelly Flake.
Thank you.
Guess what I'm here for? The skate park. I think I'm going to speak for everybody as far as budget-wise for skate parks. I know y'all are excited about that. I come here tonight to express my disappointment and frustration with the whole entire budget process, which I'm sure you guys know all about that. For over 2 years, we skateboard families have been coming to every meeting and asking for money to be appropriated, to be put in the budget for skate park improvements and for a vert ramp. Here we are today, 2 years later, and really not a whole lot has changed. Yes, we have a master plan, but the option that was suggested to the council doesn't have anything on it that we asked for. All we wanted was a ramp. We didn't want any of the other things that were included, and it would not be $1.5 million. On top of that, we were told there is no money in the budget for the skate park this year, although it's confusing because I see money on the budget, so I'm not sure if that is true or not. But I see that us coming has really not made much of an impact on the budget process. We have brought our kids to all the meetings, and some of them have even been gutsy enough to come up here and speak themselves. We encouraged them to get involved with the process because we believed it would be a great learning experience for them and to show them that their voice does matter and that they can make a difference. That didn't go so well either so far. Where are all the parents for the baseball players? They're not asking for anything because they don't have to. They have the money in the budget. Where are all the tennis parents? Same reasons. They have money allocated. Soccer parents aren't here either. None of them have to be because the town supports their sport. They get money for improvements. We have consistently come and spoke out and asked, if not begged, for money to improve the park, and we get nothing. Skateboarders are athletes too. Just because it's not a mainstream sport like baseball or soccer doesn't mean it's not a sport. Trust me, these kids are athletes. When they get off the course, they are sweaty and they are stinky. Trust me, I know, because I have to wash pads and helmets, and it's not something that you want to smell. We just would like to have some support for them. And why do we have to keep asking for this? It's so frustrating, because when I look at the budget message from Ben Shiver on I guess it was the actual budget message, he says that the skate carry vert ramp and improvements, which is $1.5 million, will be put on the not programmed for funding list for the next 5 years. My son will be 17 years old when that happens. I mean, we can't wait that long. He's going to miss opportunities to further his skills because no one thinks that what he does as an extracurricular activity is viewed as important. But to him, it is. And to every other kid that goes there, it is. Wake Med Soccer Park is on the program list with over $4.3 million allocated for the next 3 years. I mean, the cost of watering the fields has got to be astronomical for the soccer park as well as the baseball fields. You don't have to water a skate park. Renovations to the Thomas Brooks fields was also in the budget, and they got $275,000 for renovating the baseball fields. Last year, the budget for the tennis center got $4.5 million to make covers for the tennis courts. Not to mention the money that was spent on the Cary, the theater. $400,000 to buy the building, $3 million was allocated. That ballooned up to $6 million for renovating. The artwork alone was $187,000 just for the sign, the marquee. It shows movies that I can watch on Netflix or DVD, on my DVD at home. Why would I pay $5 to watch a movie that's older than I am? Just a sampling of movies coming up are Footloose, Saving Private Ryan, and African Queen. I don't think that was a very good use of the town's money. We're not asking for anywhere near $6 million. $150,000 was spent just on the concession stand for the theater. They have an operating budget of $710,000. And the projected revenue is $130,000. That is the same projected revenue as Skate Cary, and we have no budget. So I'm frustrated, I'm sorry. And then as far as the recommended budget for fiscal year 16, the baseball fields, the USAA, they're allocated $1.1 million. Wake Med Soccer is 1.5, the tennis center is 1.9, and Skate Cary, I believe if it is still on the budget, is only $250,000. So I would like to ask that you would reconsider and put the money back in the budget for the skate park. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Len Neiman. I ride C-Tran, and until I retired last year, I had the privilege of being a small business owner in the town of Cary, and I'd just like to real quick talk to other small business owners and business owners in Cary, where the legislature, I think, threw the baby out with the bathwater, repealing the privilege license ability of the town to issue. And I can't find anything in there anywhere that says if a business in Cary wants to just go ahead and write a check for whatever amount to the town of Cary because they feel it is a privilege to operate in Cary, that they cannot do that. So I'd just like to point that out to people that think they can't just give the money to Cary. And related to C-Tran, I understand there's not going to be a lot of money this year for doing new things, but I'd like to make a rider's side impact statement about the extended hours that were done out of the budget for last year or this year. And several things happened with those extended hours. And, I came many times talking about the benefits that could happen. Well, there's one I didn't even think about that shortly after the hours were extended happened. In fact, it was after a council meeting. I was over at the terminal getting on a 9 o'clock bus, and there was a lady and her young daughter on the bus. And we got to chatting, and I found out that she was there with her daughter because they had been at the town library so her daughter could use the computers to do her homework. And as strange as it may sound, there are a lot of families in Cary that cannot afford a computer for their family for the kids to do homework. And they try to get to the library, but with work hours and what have you, a lot of times it's not easy to do, so they can only go on the weekend, and kids get their work in late. And she said, and I quote here, that these extended hours were a godsend for her and friends of hers that were in the same situation, is now their kids can get to the libraries, do their homework, get home, and stay up with their schoolwork with the rest of their friends. So on her behalf, I'd like to say thank you for doing that. And I would ask that in the budget, if money should come up from here and there, if there's things you can do to add to the service or, make improvements here and there, it would be greatly appreciated. Also, on the job front, at least 8 people that I ride with since the hours changed have moved jobs to evening shifts where they make more money. In fact, 4 of them have moved into management positions where they're making more money. One of who, because he's got the time during the day and the money now, is taking a class over at ITT here in town to be able to get an even better job. So the extended hours have had a definite economic impact on the town for the better, I think. And for folks like me in the senior category, it has let us open our lives up. I've been to more events in the last year than in the 3 years previous to the extended hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker for the public hearing. Anyone else for the public hearing on the budget?
Good evening. I'm Vicki Maxwell. I am an Interact board member and longtime resident of Cary. I would like to introduce you to Kathy Johnson, the Associate Executive Director of Resource Development at Interact.
Sorry. Thank you so much for your time. We are so honored to have just a few minutes to extend our thank you to the town of Cary. My name, as Vicki said, is Catherine Johnson. I'm the Associate Executive Director of Resource Development at Interact. You all know that Interact is a nonprofit organization here in Raleigh on Oberlin Road that provides safety support and awareness to domestic violence and sexual assault victims in our community. So I'm here specifically tonight to thank the town of Cary for its past and we hope continued investment in the critical emergency services that Interact is providing. Your support of Interact ensures that Interact can serve as a lifeline to victims in Cary 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. And at all times, Interact is operating 3 24-hour programs. That would be our 3 emergency hotlines. We also have our emergency 45-bed shelter. And in addition, we have North Carolina's very first and only community-based forensic sexual assault examination center, and one of just a few in the country. Interact is the only provider in our community of comprehensive domestic and sexual violence services, and we are saving lives and rebuilding lives and securing futures for these families here in Cary every single day. Every year, we are reaching more than 45,000 community members in Wake County, more than 2,000 of those here in Cary. As you all may know, just to give you a quick update on your investment and some of the work that you're doing, our partnership with the town of Cary has been amazing and has allowed us to really embark on some amazing game-changing initiatives in our community, and I'd like to mention just 3 of those briefly. The first of those is called the Lethality Assessment Program, which is a partnership with law enforcement. We started that program only with the town of Cary, law enforcement, Raleigh, and Morrisville, and it has grown. Just in the very first month that we launched that program, we reached more victims at the greatest risk of being killed by domestic violence than we anticipated reaching in an entire year. So we are thrilled to have that partnership with the law enforcement here in Cary. They are doing quick lethality assessments with victims at the scene, getting victims on the phone with us from the scene and getting them connected to services. It's an evidence-based program that in other communities has reduced domestic violence homicides by more than 44%. So we are thrilled to be able to do that work with the town of Cary's law enforcement. In addition, a second initiative that we believe is a game changer to reduce homicides in our community is that Interact is now leading the Wake County Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. We were appointed by the Wake County Board of Commissioners as the lead agency for that initiative, and we have town of Cary representatives as part of that team as well. That team reviews 4 homicides each year and kind of dissects the case to look for any areas where we can make systemic improvements in our community and hopefully prevent future domestic violence homicides in our community. So again, thank you for being our partner in that important work. And finally, one of the greatest game changers that we are excited and soon to come is electronic filing of protective orders that will soon be happening from our offices at Interact. So soon, victims will be able to come to our office. They will be able to meet with one of our counselors and advocates. It will be electronically filed. They will be able to video conference with a judge and have it immediately granted. Once it's granted, it can be then electronically sent to a police cruiser to begin serving the order. We are only the 2nd community in our state doing this work, and the first one was Alamance County. This right now, navigating the system, the court system, parking, possibly having to see your perpetrator in that process is a very scary and daunting process that can take anywhere from a couple of days for a victim to complete up to 7 days for the entire process to happen. And this is during one of the most dangerous times for a victim when they are leaving. This process, when I watched it happen in Alamance County, literally we saw it filed at 11 o'clock in the morning. Our team went to lunch. We came back about 1:30 and it had already been served. So something from 7 days, we're talking now, will be just a couple of hours to maybe a day or 2.
Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you for all you do. Next speaker for this public hearing.
Hi, I'm Beth Warner-Sullivan. I did not plan on coming up here again, but I knew there was a reason why I came tonight besides the skate park. Interact. I'm an example of who they've helped, and so any support that the town of Cary could give them would be great, and it would mean the world to me because they changed my life. And it's important for a lot of women like me who have babies alone to be able to have somewhere to call when they need help. And I just wanted, when I saw that lady come up here and I knew where she was from, and I didn't know what she was going to speak about, but there's a reason why I was here tonight. And if you could do anything for anyone tonight, it would be interact, because that saved me from a lot of horrible things that could have happened to me. So any way you could help them, I would appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public hearing for the budget? Anyone at all? We're going to close the public hearing for the budget and open it up to council members if they have any questions or comments. If not, we'll conduct another public hearing on the budget on June 11th. All right, we'll move to our second public hearing. It's an honor-initiated annexation petition 15A03 for properties located at 1010 and Westlake Roads. Property owners and the town residents may speak at this public hearing. Mr. Nicholas of our staff will present this item. We're going to open the public hearing. Council will not take action this evening. Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This request is for annexation of 55.6 acres of property located off Westlake Road, 1010 Road, and Lawdraker Road as shown on the map. The request also includes 0.17 acres of adjacent right-of-way. The property is located outside of Cary's ETJ and currently has a Wake County zoning designation of residential 30. The request is associated with the rezoning case 15 REZ03, which had a public hearing back on April 21st. As you said, following the public hearing, no action is needed this evening. Petition will be placed on a future meeting agenda so action can coincide with the associated rezoning case.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. At this time, now's the time for the public hearing for annexation petition 15A03, and I would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments. Nope. All right, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. We'll now move to item 5.3, public hearing for owner-initiated annexation petition 15A06, heirs of Elizabeth Talley Appleton. Property owners and town residents may speak at this public hearing. Once again, Mr. Nicholas will present the item. We'll open the public hearing, and council may take action on this item. Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. This request is for annexation of approximately 0.12 acres of property located off Rochelle Road, approximately 240 feet west of the Evans Road and Rochelle Road intersection. The request also includes 0.02 acres of adjacent right-of-way. The property is in Cary's ETJ and it's currently zoned residential 12. The request is associated with Development Plan 14 SP 77, which proposes subdivision of an adjacent lot and a sewer extension.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. At this time, I would open the public hearing for annexation petition 15A06 and would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll open it up to council members for questions, comments, or a motion.
Make a motion to approve annexation 15A06.
There's
Second.
a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. Now move to item 5.4, removal of rural road standards in the southwest area of the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Mr. Bray of the staff will present the item. We're going to open the public hearing. Council will not take action. Instead, we're going to refer it to the Planning and Zoning Board. Mr. Bray.
Good evening, Council. For your consideration, staff is recommending a public hearing tonight to remove the rural road standards in the southwest area of the Comprehensive Transportation Plan as directed at the March 24, 2015 Council work session. The current Comprehensive Transportation Plan is illustrated in this slide. Street cross-sections in the green level area currently follow the rural road design standards adopted in the Southwest Area Plan. This slide shows the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. The roadway widths are not proposing to change and will remain consistent with the current plan. All roads would be built with the town's typical standard to include urban amenities such as sidewalks, street lights, and curb and gutter. Staff recommends Town Council conduct a public hearing and refer the proposed amendment to the June 15th Planning and Zoning Board meeting for a public hearing and recommendation. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bray. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing for 15 CPA03, Comprehensive Transportation Plan, and invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments.
My only question was, what would then be the plan, should something like this move forward, to bring the other roads that have already been implemented up to a new standard, meaning they would no longer be rural roads? Would that be on a future comprehensive transportation plan? What would we do to bring those up to the new standard?
Thank you for your question. What would happen after the entire process goes through and it is recommended is it would actually take effect, so that on the comprehensive transportation plan, all of those roads would no longer have the rural standards. Then as we do the update for an additional comprehensive transportation plan, we'll look at it further at that point.
So that would be on some future potential budget item associated with bringing them up to speed?
Yeah, I think your question, let me see if I understand your question correctly, is let's say we have a road that's been built to the rural standard.
Correct.
And now we have the comprehensive plan that says it should be done at our typical urban standard. Are we going to go back and improve those? I would guess we're probably not going to go actively do that, but if a developer came in and wanted to make a development along that road, maybe he'd have to improve his frontage to meet our new standards. Is that right?
I'll refer to Julia. But
Yes, it's like
yes.
So we won't actively go and pursue it. I guess if we had let's say we had a road that was maybe 2 lanes and we wanted to eventually expand it to 4 lanes, at that time, then we would meet the new standard. But we
Right,
wouldn't
like
update
Green
roads.
Level Road, I think some of those have already been implemented with the rural standard, but new developments are already occurring, or sorry, they're coming in front of us along Green Level. So my concern is that we'll have rural, then new standard, rural, then new. So it'll be very, non-harmonious, if you will, if you drive.
Much like our sidewalks.
Yeah, it's kind of like High House Road, where you have part of the comprehensive transportation plan implemented right in front of the Highland Oaks, and the road is a little bit wider, and then right when it gets to Wellesley, it squishes back in again to the old standard. So you'll see some discontinuous segments, but by the time our children, our grandparents, they'll be
Well,
resolved.
this area is growing so quickly, I don't know it'll be our children or grandkids that'll be, I'd like staff to look at it, should it move forward at that time on what that plan will be and what the cost to the taxpayers will be potentially, because,
To go back and retrofit?
well, I mean.
I'm sure you're
think-
talking millions.
Well, I'm just thinking about, look at these roads, Green Hope School Road, we've got a school coming on board there, right? We've got Green Level Church Road, I think there's 4 new developments and several proposed. So if we know about this ahead of time, let's put some plans in place that, 5, 10 years, that it can somehow pay for itself, or it's just gonna look really funky, and it's not the look that how does Jack say it? The Cary way. It's not the Cary way.
Yeah.
It's not gonna look like it. It's gonna feel very unusual for all those people on that side of Cary.
I agree with you. I think one of the biggest disappointments are these neighborhoods that have been built already, and with no curb and gutter and sidewalk, and families are saying, oh, when are we going to get our sidewalk? And it's going to be really cost prohibitive for us to go back and retrofit those with sidewalks because there's no curb and gutter, and we know how expensive from some of the other projects we've looked at it is to do that.
Well, I'm not talking about inside the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the major roads. I was just saying probably one of the things that people are going to be upset about is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
We ready for a motion? Wait a minute.
I think it goes to Planning and Zoning Board.
I'm on the wrong
But if you want us to
one,
skip
sorry.
it, we'll just vote yes.
Let's let it go to
I know, they never let us do it. We could save so much time.
I think you're going to refer this to P and Z.
Yeah, my instructions say, is there a motion? That's why I read it. Sorry.
That's because they changed it.
I know.
Don't believe
This will go to, I know, this will go to the Planning and Zoning Board. They'll probably see it at their next meeting, maybe? Or are they going to have a
June
work
15th.
session?
June 15th.
June 15th meeting. All right, very good. Sorry for the confusion. All right, we'll move to the next item, item 5.5, a public hearing on the Land Development Ordinance Text Amendments, Round 32. We're going to hear a report. What? We're going to hear a report from staff and conduct a public hearing. Council will not take action. Instead, we're going to refer to the Planning and Zoning Board, and Ms. Bierman will introduce this item. Ms. Bierman.
Good evening. These are the round 32 LDO amendments. There are just two items in this round. The first is an amendment related to the transportation development fees. It would clarify and simplify existing wording for consistency. The second amendment item is related to the comprehensive transportation plan amendment that you just heard Mr. Bray speak of. This amendment would eliminate would eliminate aspects of the land development ordinance to be consistent with the changes made to the comprehensive transportation plan for the rural roads if that TP amendment is adopted. So these are just related amendments to clean up, to work with those. In the event that the CTP was not adopted, then these amendments would remain as is. With regard to schedule, we do have this going to, or propose this to go to Planning and Zoning on on June 15th, and then come back to this board for a decision on June 25th. And that concludes staff's comments.
Thank you, Ms. Bierman. Now it's time for the public hearing for LDO text amendments round 32. I would invite the first speaker forward. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments. Okay, this will go to the June 15th Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you, Ms. Bierman. We now move to items 5.6 and 5.7. MS Holding Properties at Wilson Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPA 15 CPA 02, and 5.7 MS Holdings Property at Wilson Road Rezoning 15 REZ 04. We're going to hear from both staff reports on the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning. We're going to allow the applicant to explain the requests. We're going to conduct a public hearing, and we will not take action tonight. Instead, we're going to refer both of these to the Planning and Zoning Board. Both items will come back to council at a future date, and Ms. Chandler will present the comprehensive plan amendment piece. Ms. Chandler.
Thank you. Good evening, council. This is a comprehensive plan amendment request for a little over 5 acres in North Cary, right next to Morrisville. The subject property is located on the north side of Chapel Hill Road, about a quarter mile east of Chapel Hill and Cary Parkway. Notification of this plan amendment request was sent to properties shown in yellow on this slide. And this slide shows stream buffers and floodways around the subject property. There is a proposed street side trail on the south side of the site. And Chapel Hill Road and Northwest Cary Parkway are both existing major thoroughfares. There is a proposed collector on the east side of the site. There is a future C-Tran route planned for Cary Parkway and Chapel Hill Road. Again, that's about a quarter mile west of the property. The current land use plan designation is low-density residential. The applicant proposes to change the designation to medium-density residential, and that includes densities between 3 and 8 units per acre. And it's worth noting, it's tough when looking at this because it's right next to Morrisville. The land use designation, as per the town of Morrisville, immediately adjacent to the west side of the property is commercial, or it's a quarter commercial district. And then on the northeast, it's low-density residential, and their low-density residential goes up to 4.5 units per acre. There are 4 criteria to look at when determining whether or not a comprehensive plan amendment is necessary. We believe the third item has been satisfied. So tonight, we're here for a public hearing, and our applicant's representative is here if she wishes to make comments.
Okay, do we want to do the other staff report first? Yes. Ms. Grannon will now talk about the rezoning, and then we'll invite the applicant up.
Thanks.
I'm just going to quickly jump right into the pertinent portions of this case. As you just heard, the current land use designation is low-density residential. The existing zoning is residential 40. And the applicant has proposed transitional residential conditional use. Conditions proposed by the applicant would be to limit the use to detached residential and neighborhood recreation. As you know, transitional residential allows uses such as townhomes and patio homes, but this condition would limit it to detached residential. There was one protest petition submitted, and because of the area, it is a valid protest. Concerns expressed in the protest petition were the proposed density. With the current proposal of transitional residential, the density would be allowed to be 6 dwelling units per acre. The petitioner was also concerned about potential impacts from increased traffic and stormwater runoff. And there was a concern expressed about the comprehensive transportation plan alignment and impacts caused by the extension of Wilson Road, which you saw on the comprehensive transportation plan slide. There were other concerns expressed by some neighbors in the community along Wilson Road. They did not submit a protest petition. Many of these neighbors are actually in Morrisville. One of them is in Cary's ETJ, but not in the Cary city limits. Concerns were focused on the condition of Wilson Road and the need for future improvements. There has been communication with the applicant on this, and they are addressing a number of those concerns. Concerns about expressed to the developer about a more comprehensive development, both with those neighbors and with Morrisville, and neighbors interested in opportunities for future utility connections. So staff's provided them information about annexation opportunities. And once again, this concludes staff's presentation. Following the applicant's comments will be available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. At this time, I'll invite the applicant forward for their remarks.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Glenda Top, and I'm here tonight representing the property owner. I might be a little bit redundant since I'll go from one to the other, so bear with me, but I'm going to, as staff did, I'll do both at the same time. The first item is a comprehensive plan amendment. Do want to point out that the property owners, MS Holding Company, they have owned the property. It's been in the family for over 60 years, and they're at a point where they are looking at to develop their property. The proposed change is from low density to medium density residential, and the property is located on the north side of Chapel Hill Road at Wilson Road. As staff pointed out, this is the first comprehensive plan amendment in this area location since the plan was adopted in 1996. As we all know, there have been major changes in this location, particularly at the intersection of Chapel Hill Road and Cary Parkway, with the commercial development in Morrisville and in particular Park West Village. With all the new development that has occurred in the area, we believe that the property is suitable for medium density residential development. Medium density does allow both attached and detached, and as I'll point out in the rezoning, by condition we have limited the use to detached residential. The use being proposed is similar to what is already in the area. I do want to point out that the property to the west of this comprehensive plan amendment is also located in Morrisville. It is to the west of Wilson Road. We have submitted both a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning for the property in Morrisville. The land use designation in Morrisville is corridor commercial. So this will be a land use plan change to a residential category for detached residential. So again, I know this is separate, but the property owner has chosen to both submit the request both to Cary and Morrisville at the same time. In terms of changes also in the area, the road section for Chapel Hill Road is currently a 2-lane section. Future section is planned for a 6-lane divided landscape median roadway. It will have sidewalk and an outside line for bicycles. So this has also and will have an impact on the property. I just want to touch on a couple of points. The amendment does meet several of the guiding principles of Cary's growth plan. The plan encourages the concentration of growth near existing and planned employment centers. Again, the employment center in this particular case is in Morrisville, but it is a major node right down the street from the proposed rezoning. Also, utilities are available to the site and can be provided without affecting any of the existing development in the area. The comprehensive plan also encourages increased densities within walking distance to non-residential development, retail services, and this would do that. And also, as staff pointed out, there is a future C-Tran route that will be located nearby along the Cary Parkway. We believe that the original plan that was adopted in 1996 did not predict the size of the non-residential development at the intersection of the Cary Parkway and Chapel Hill Road, and that due to the changes in the area, that the amendment is appropriate for the location, and we do ask for staff support. We ask for council support, excuse me. The second request is the rezoning. The current property is zoned R40. We're asking for transitional residential conditional use. Again, as I pointed out, the property owners have owned the property for over 60 years. As has been pointed out at other council meetings, R40 is typically seen as a holding zone until development is ready to occur in the area. The land has been in the family for many, many years. They're at a point where they do want to see the land developed, therefore the request for the rezoning. Right now, there is a zoning condition that states that the uses are limited to detached residential and neighborhood recreation. Tonight, we do want to offer a new zoning condition. This condition, I brought this up to staff today, and we understand it will have to be vetted by staff, but we did want to introduce it into the record tonight. First of all, the medium density in Cary is 3 to 8 units per acre. Transitional residential goes up to 6 units per acre. What we are offering is a zoning condition that would limit the number of units on the property to 22. And if you do the calculation based on the acreage, then that would be a maximum density of 4.34. So in addition to the type of residential product being proposed, we are offering a condition that would limit the number of units, therefore lowering the possible density on the property. We do believe that the proposed use and densities are compatible with development that has occurred in the area. Again, as I pointed out, the property to the west is also going through a similar rezoning, and the proposed use there is detached residential. We believe that the site can accommodate the proposed use. The rezoning addresses the changing conditions in the area, and as was pointed out in the comprehensive plan section, there's adequate infrastructure to service this property. Also, the proposed rezoning will support the neighborhood non-residential development that's in the area in Morrisville. Residential development will be located in close proximity to employment areas, services. This will allow for shorter travel time and the opportunity for alternative means of transportation. Want to talk about the neighborhood meeting. We had a neighborhood meeting. It was held here. It was actually the first meeting that was held under the new procedures where it's held in town hall with the town staff. Thought it went well, so far, so good. We've had another one, and I think it's a good move, at least in my opinion. So pleased with how that's worked. Want to talk about one particular property owner. It's also the property owner that submitted the protest petition. And as staff pointed out, it is a valid petition. It is the property owner to the east, Mr. Rakowski. One thing that he did voice a concern about at the meeting was the realignment of Wilson Road. Want to point out that the realignment of Wilson Road showed up on the town of Cary's transportation plan. there was a site plan that was submitted for Woods at Fairbanks, and this property is north of Mr. Rakowski's property. And with the submittal of that site plan, they were required to show the realignment of Wilson Road that affected their property. So the site plan was approved by staff, and pursuant to that requirement and the approved plans, a portion of the realignment of Wilson Road has already been built and is in place. So I did want to point out that the desire to relocate that road was on Cary's plan. Also want to point out, until the property owner decides to develop his property, Wilson Road would not be connected to Chapel Hill Road. Want to add that the potential developer of this property has met with Mr. Rakowski several times. They met today. The meeting was with him and his attorney. They are working cooperatively to try to come up with a acceptable solution to his concerns with Wilson Road, and just want council to know that we will continue to work with him as we go through the rezoning process. And also in the protest petition that was submitted, there was a discussion about density, and as we have added tonight, we have capped the number of units, thus lowering the density. There was also a concern expressed at the neighborhood meeting about a condition of a portion of Wilson Road due to the development in the area. The developer of the residential subdivision to the north is the same one that would do this development. He agreed to make those repairs. They've been made, and if the road continues to be affected by construction traffic, then he will continue to make those necessary repairs. In summary, the land uses and density proposed with the TR zoning are appropriate for the site. The proposed rezoning will provide an excellent transition to the uses already in the area. We feel the proposed rezoning is compatible with the development in the area, and that the standards in the LDO, in addition to the zoning conditions that we have offered, will ensure that the proposed development will not have a negative impact on the area. And again, we ask for council support on the rezoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's nothing else from staff, we'll open the public hearing. Now it's time for the public hearing for Comprehensive Plan Amendment 15 CPA02 and rezoning 15 REZ04, and I would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Oh, I'm sorry. Could you move to your left, please?
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry, wrong mic. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Isabel Maddox, Mayor and members of the Town Council. I'm here tonight on behalf of Dave Roskowski, and he is the owner at 9520 Chapel Hill Road, which is directly to the east of this rezoning property. Like the subject property, he has owned his property for a long time as well, and he lives on the property in one house on approximately 5 acres, adjacent to this tract, which is also approximately 5 acres, and they're seeking, they were, until we just heard a decrease in this, to put up to maybe 30 units. So at 4.34, they're going down to 22 units. The much appreciated reduction in density. However, it's still over 4 times the density that's generally in that area. And you can look at the map and you can see the sort of brownish red. There's quite a good bit of R40 right there, which is roughly R1. So it's still a pretty drastic increase from what the density they see today. This represents a huge change for Mr. Roskowski. It'll be a major increase in density. It'll increase traffic, stormwater impacts. It will require smaller lots, smaller setbacks, so there'll be less open space. It's not consistent with Cary's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan would allow 1 to 3 units there, and this is going for 4.5 or so units. One of the factors that is weighing heavily on my client is the possible location of Wilson Road. When that's shown on the transportation plan, they're dots on a map, Sharpie on the map. And that's, where's that going to go? Who knows? But it was shown as straddling the line between the subject zoning property and Mr. Ruskowski's property. Now it's looking like, oh, he's going to take the brunt of that whole road on his property, and he doesn't have a whole lot of frontage on Chapel Hill Road. So, that impact really concerns us, as well as the density, the inconsistency with the comp plan. We did meet with Mr. Beebe this morning, had a good meeting, and I'm hopeful that we can continue to work with him. We would like to work with him to try to come up with a modification to either their development plan or their zoning case that will mitigate the impacts on his property. We did file the protest petition. At present, we do oppose the case, and we oppose the comprehensive plan amendment as well. I think it's, if comp planning was looked at as zoning, you would have this very isolated area of the higher density residential, which, in Cary, it's sort of in a sea of low density. So it doesn't seem appropriate given the adjacencies of the other properties. So we do oppose the comprehensive plan amendment as well. But again, we would like to work with the developers. We had a positive meeting this morning, and we're hopeful that we can work that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of the council, I'm Tom Beebe. I work with Standard Pacific Homes. We have the property under contract and have made application for a rezoning. This is one of 6 pieces that MS Holdings owns. As if this business isn't hard enough, we've got another zoning that splits jurisdiction. So we've got 5 pieces of property going through Morrisville. Application has been made to Morrisville, and of course this one here. We think a zoning that has a medium density or a somewhat more dense use makes sense here. You've got institutional at one corner and very heavy commercial at the other 3 corners of this intersection. We think it makes a lot of sense from good sound planning principles that there be something a little more dense than standard single family. It will be detached, but single family density. We have worked, I have met with Mr. Rutkowski several times. I met with his attorney this morning. Again, I can promise you we will continue to try to work something out. The road is a difficult situation. That the road alignment as it comes into his north boundary was prescribed or required. That location was required at the time the Woods of Fairbanks subdivision plan was put in, was submitted. That point is dictated or is located. We have brought the entrance over onto our portion of the property to make it, partly to make it align at 90 degrees to Highway 54. And we will continue to work with them about possibly moving the alignment and also ways to mitigate number of units that adjoin his property. We've talked about a couple of possibilities this morning, and we will continue to do that. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer that, but I just wanted to assure you we will do everything we can to continue to work with Mr. Rutkowski. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beebe. Next speaker for this public hearing. Anyone else for this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments.
I've got a question, I guess, to help me better understand the changes to Wilson Road. I understand, I've seen the dots on the map. I mean, I get that, but I guess my first question is what happens to the existing Wilson Road and the section shooting across the subject property? I mean, are they trying to design the site to utilize the existing Wilson Road as access? Are they going to have access into their site from Chapel Hill Road? And then if I'm not totally familiar with the woods at Fairbanks, can you help show me where that is and what part of the road has been constructed? And
Yes.
Thank you.
This is a map showing the subdivision for the woods at Fairbanks. This is the existing Wilson Road. Right now, it comes into the site from the west and goes to the north. And the property line right now, Mr. Rakowski's property is approximately here.
Okay.
So as you can see, the large portion of the road comes toward his property, but not 100% of it. I'm going to go back to a slide so that you can see the subject property again. So this is where the woods of Fairbanks is. This is the subject property here with the proposed comprehensive plan amendment and proposed rezoning. And this is not an exact alignment. This is just to give you a perspective of where the subdivision falls. And it looks as though it's actually going to be a little bit further. The road actually hits on his property more than is shown in this image.
Okay. So the piece of road that's currently shooting east-west through the property, that section of road will no longer exist?
I apologize. I'm sorry.
The section of road and ultimate connection to Chapel Hill Road, Wilson Road, that will all go away?
We don't have that information yet about ask the question again, if you would, please.
Where the existing Wilson Road, where it connects to Chapel Hill, goes up, hangs a right, goes through the subject property, and then hangs a left, that section will ultimately go away. Is that correct? By the blue dots, the answer is yes.
We don't have that information yet about exactly the alignment. We don't have that information at this time, exactly how the road alignment is going to be situated. This is on the proposed comprehensive transportation plan. Whether or not this alignment, and I'm going to ask someone from our Transportation and Facilities Department to speak to this a little
The
bit.
dotted road, I'm not asking about. The blue.
You're asking about Wilson
Yes.
Road right now?
Yes.
And whether or not this connection would go away?
Yes.
That has not been determined.
Okay, when would that be determined?
Good evening, Council. That would be determined during site plan approval. A lot of that property is in the town of Morrisville's jurisdiction. I think the applicant's vision is to go away with that particular road and maybe reconfigure it differently. Don't know if that's certainly going to happen, but I think there's some desire to maybe reconfigure the existing portion of Wilson Road so it better conforms to what he wants to do from a layout standpoint.
If this rezoning and application and site plan and everything was approved, would the applicant be required to construct the new section of Wilson Road?
There would be a requirement if, and again, we pledged with, both with the developer and as well as the adjacent property owner that we would work with them on an alignment that is balanced and equitable with all parties. If portions of Wilson Road realignment cannot be built at this time, we would make appropriate accommodations for right-of-way and possible payment in lieu for construction so that it could be constructed in the future as other, development occurs in that area.
Okay. I mean, I know it's kind of a site plan issue, but I guess my concern is this site going to be developed in a way that if and when that future new Wilson Road is constructed, just doesn't fit or work right, I guess.
I think you'll probably, and again, we haven't seen a site plan. I would think the units that are going to be developed would probably have their back door or backyards facing, this collector road in the future. So they wouldn't have any direct access to it at this time, but it would be another through road.
Okay. My only other comments, I guess, thank you, that helps me better understand that a little bit. As far as density is concerned, I mean, good gosh, this is what, a quarter mile away from Park West. I don't have a problem with the proposed density. I actually appreciate the unit cap, and so those are my comments.
Other comments?
Just a question. Where is Mr. Ruskowski's access to his home? Is it off of Chapel Hill or is it
Yes.
off of? It is off of Chapel Hill today. Okay. Because there's another road to the east of him. I don't know if that's Fairbanks or if there's a dirt road between him and Fairbanks. Is that right? See that road right there?
This is it,
To the-
yeah.
Over to the right.
Over here?
That's a dirt road?
His property is over here.
Okay. So his access is right there off of?
He has a driveway directly to his property.
Okay. And this, on the comprehensive transportation, this is Chapel Hill is still identified as a 6-lane road, is that right? Yes. It is. So the right-of-way that will be dedicated, and that widening would be done by the applicant?
That is
For that
correct.
width?
That is correct.
Is that the first place along Chapel Hill where we've got that, where it'll be that wide? Because the other side.
Yeah,
no,
I think
the
as
other
you
side isn't
go
developed.
further south, I don't think it's mostly a 2-lane road for predominantly all the way from Maynard all the way to Cary Parkway.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I was-
it does get wider as you approach Cary Parkway, yes.
Right, okay. The other side isn't, this is the one place I can think of where, is that south or? I don't know, the south side's already widened, so this will be the first time we actually do have the potential full width.
Right.
Right, okay. Wow, 6 lanes.
Other questions, comments? Okay. I understand the applicant and the subject property are talking. I think that's a good start. Got to keep talking, got to keep working on the differences before it comes back to us. I really don't want to see a protest petition when it comes back to us. If it does, it'll take 5 out of 6 council members to approve. Any other comments? All right, we'll see this at a future date. Thank you, Ms. Grannon. We now move to discussion items. Our first discussion item is High Meadows Drive's improvements. Mr. Jensen will present this item. Council may take action. Mr. Jensen.
Okay, good evening, council. Just wanted to recap you. We brought forward to you back in September some proposals for our Cary Parkway Kildare Farm Road intersection that was presented in our staff report. As part of that staff report, we talked a little bit about some concerns about access into the Kildare at Farms shopping center, particularly right in back of Trader Joe's, and the issues of having traffic backing up as people are trying to turn into that particular entrance. And at that particular time, we suggested 3 options, which included basically a variety of widening options, but all included some restricted access into that shopping center entrance, which is basically make it a right-in, right-out. And at that time, there was some concern about, that was raised about, is that appropriate for that particular shopping center to be a right-in, right-out, or is there other options available to them? There was also concerns maybe about some other things about pedestrian crossings in that area as well. So we've taken a comprehensive look. We hired our traffic engineering firm, Ramey Kemp and Associates, to go back and with staff and look at some additional design options that are available to the town. So we've asked the consultant to look at 10 design options. Each of them had various advantages over the other, and we looked at traffic operations and the performance of each one of those options and weighted against one another. And those are outlined in your staff report. Staff focused on 3 options that we believe meets the desires of trying to mitigate the amount of queuing that is occurring on High Meadow Drive, trying to turn into that particular shopping center entrance so it won't spill back into Cary Parkway, as well as try to preserve some of the desires of the adjacent property owners, which include trying to keep that driveway open as a full movement driveway, and providing some pedestrian accommodation from the neighborhood across the street so they can get safely to the shopping center. So those 3 options rose to the top, and we focused on those specifically. And tonight's recommendation, as outlined in your staff report, is a combination of option 4 and 7. Just want to briefly go over what that entails. Basically, currently what we have as you're approaching Cary Parkway on High Meadow is we have exclusive left turn lane, and then we have an exclusive right turn lane. What we're suggesting in this particular scenario is that the right turn lane would be converted through pavement striping, a shared left and a right turn lane. The reason for that is the right turn volume currently at that intersection is very low compared to the left turn volume. We believe that if we can add a combination left-right lane there, we could process significantly more left turns at that intersection because it is a T intersection, and that would reduce the queue length considerably and be able to have more opportunities for openings at that driveway location. Now, I will tell you, there are probably likelihood there may be 2 to 3 cycles during that peak hour of the day where it's still going to cross over the driveway and block it. We're also recommending, with that though, a new technique that hasn't been used in town, it has been used around the country, is a special pavement marking which basically describes it as do not block the driveway, as well as some supporting signs that go along with that. Now that relies heavily on the motoring public to be compliant with that suggestion. It's not a firm traffic violation if you do not do it. The other part of that we're suggesting is to shadow in the existing pavement a short left turn lane. The number of cars turning left into that driveway during the peak hour is roughly less than 2 per minute. And we believe if we can shadow at least 1 or 2 cars there, that will have great probability that cars can then continue on High Meadow Lane or High Meadow Drive without having to impede traffic and back up all the way to Cary Parkway. So that was one of the concerns that I believe Council had expressed. The final element of the particular plan concerns, getting residents from the Hanover development safely across the road, and we have been in discussions with them possibly about doing a mid-block crossing. We don't believe that is probably an appropriate place to do it. We have a pedestrian signal down at Cary Parkway, High Meadow. What we would suggest is trying to encourage the residents to walk from Hanover Place down on a sidewalk, which would be located on the east side of the roadway, which is the top portion shown on your staff report picture. And that is a short walk down to that signalized intersection where we can safely accommodate them getting across the road. And I think that will go a long way to solving some of their concerns and desires to get safely across the road. So we're also in discussions with the shopping center to provide a more direct sidewalk connection instead of having to come all the way down and come into the main entrance into Cary Parkway, is possibly trying to put a more direct sidewalk connection somewhere closer to the Cary Parkway High Meadow intersection. And we're still in discussions with them. I think we still have a couple things logistically to work out with them, particularly when it concerns maybe losing a parking space or 2, and also the additional impervious surface that may be generated by the sidewalk on their site. As you know, they're protecting their development rights in the future, and is understandably so. That basically describes staff's recommendation for you tonight, and we believe that will go a long way to solving some of these concerns about traffic backing up in that area. Can we say with confidence it's going to absolve 100% of it? Probably not, but it certainly will go a long way to help mitigating what we see out there today. So staff has a recommendation for you to consider tonight. First is that you consider authorizing staff to proceed with improvements as outlined as option 4 and 7 in your staff report. 5-foot sidewalk be constructed on the east side of High Meadow Drive from Hanover Place to Cary Parkway. And finally, that funding for this particular project, Council did fund a spot safety type fund in last year's budget for the first time. We would suggest using those funds for this project. And again, last time I think we talked about, was there any bond funds available for it, and there probably would not be any for it. So this is a good revenue source for this particular type of improvement. I do want to share with you also a request that we just recently received from the Hanover neighborhood that once the staff report came out, they did not have a time to react to all of the nuances in this particular plan. They would politely ask if you would like to table this for a period of time so that staff can meet with them and go over this particular proposal with them. They would be appreciative of that, and we're certainly supportive of helping them understand the plan. So with that, I have, that's the end of my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Could you put the slide with the map back on it? And the queuing length of the left turn into the back of the shopping center, how long is that?
Going into the shopping center or actually along the road?
New left turn lane where your arrow is going
Right there?
into that back entrance, yes. What is it?
Yeah, the red line that you see on that represents the maximum queue length that we're predicting.
How many cars, I guess?
That's about 2 cars.
2 cars.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and get my comments out of the way. I think I'm a minority here, but I drive this multiple times a day. Today, when I came to the council meeting, cars are queued up on High Meadow Drive all the way back to the second entrance. That's how big that is. And cars on Cary Parkway were queued up past the intersection of High Meadow and Cary Parkway. Jack, you came that way, you probably saw the same thing.
Absolutely.
The people on Cary Parkway do not want to wait to go into the front of Trader Joe's, so they're going to turn in to the back. Now, I fear if you put a left turn lane, that's going to be more inviting, especially during peak hours, and a 2-length queuing lane, I think, is not going to be nearly enough, and I think we create a bigger hazard by putting the left turn lane. The thing I do like, and I totally agree with, are the dual left turns with the right turn. I think that's excellent. That will help with the queuing. Like you said, the queuing will still be big, still be long, but it'll make a great improvement without a lot of cost. I also agree with allowing this to be tabled to meet with the residents. We're taking a lot of expense on here to try to get a sidewalk to integrate them into the shopping center. And I certainly want to get their input about that. If they think, no, this is a big waste of money, then we shouldn't be doing it. So I totally agree with that. So those are my comments. And one more comment, I know everybody else has. I still think you can accomplish the right thing. The second entrance to the back of that shopping center would work as a left turn. If you really want a left turn into the back of the shopping center, that would be more safe or safer than the one right next to the Cary Parkway intersection. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Do you mean closing the first one?
No. Making that, not putting a left turn lane in there. I would even go so far, if it was my world, putting no left turn during hours 4, 6, but I think that's a DOT decision. You can't do that.
Well, it's technically a town road, so we don't need DOT buy-in on that. Okay. So again, if that's
I wouldn't like in rush hour to allow left turns into the back at all. I think you should go to the front of Trader Joe's and not create hazards. And if you want to take a back entrance, you should go to the second one. But those are just my thoughts.
To me, as long as everybody abides by the do not block, I think this works.
It doesn't happen. I drive it every day. It doesn't happen. People beg.
And there's an arrogance now where they just
Is there anything there that now says do not block, striping on the road, anything? So they're not being told not to block?
They're not being told, and again, it's more of a courtesy.
I understand.
Thing, so, yeah.
And
again, we really don't have, I mean, some cities are having success in it, some others are, again, it's just it's a suggested technique that we haven't tried in Cary, and we'd certainly like to try it here.
Right. And again, I think that if people abide by it, I think what you have here works. I would like a easier access from Hanover Place into the shopping center pedestrian, but at the same time, with the amount of traffic volume and cars that we have here, trying to put a crosswalk in the middle of that road without a signal is you're inviting danger. So I do agree that going to Cary Parkway a signalized intersection with a crosswalk, that is the most safest way to do that. So I actually like what I see as long as people abide by the do not block. We don't have the authority to make that a penalty should they block?
Well, we could,
Put in a red light.
yeah. we could put up a no left turn sign during provision during certain hours of the day. Again, that's a regulatory thing. It could be a penalty associated with it. I think we need to probably talk with our police department about that.
I'm not so much interested as I guess I'm different from the mayor.
I'm sorry,
Penalty for blocking.
Oh, I think we'd have to probably work at that and see what authority we may be able to.
Because I hear you on 2 cars might not be enough, but if nobody's ever blocking, then those 2 cars aren't sitting there very long. So I don't know how much backup you'd see there. The problem we have today is everybody comes in and wants to make that left turn. There's no other lane for cars to keep going by. People are blocking it. They can't ever make the left turn. So if you could somehow magically enforce the do not block, I think it works, and I like it.
Other comments?
The only additional, did you have a comment? No, go ahead. The only additional comment I had, and maybe I missed it in the staff report, is there any additional work being done on the pedestrian crossing to make it ADA compliant with some of the things that we've done across town for people with disabilities?
You know, anytime we do an improvement at an intersection, we're going to have to bring it up to current code.
But in some places in the town, we've added, for instance, sound, this crosswalk so that people with hearing disabilities could cross. Are we doing that?
Well, in that particular case, we're selective about where we put ADA type pedestrian signals. In this particular case, you know, given the aging population of the neighborhood in there, I think we could have that discussion with them during that time and see if that is to them an added benefit. Now, it's a very expensive piece of technology to put out there at every intersection, so we're somewhat selective to do it. So, but again, I think that could go into the conversation with the neighborhood. Is this going to bring you the value that you want to receive from it? The other thing I want to make you aware of that inflates the price tag for this particular project as well. But
Right.
again,
We did this in Walnut Street, and it wasn't
we did do
much.
that. Yes, we did. We recommended
More.
that, just a standard countdown ped head on
Right.
that. But we, through discussions with the council and your desires, we changed that out.
I would love to hear what the neighbors think of that, because I know that is an aging population over there, and they might not even know that that's an option, and would certainly be interested in that, their feedback.
Yeah, and usually that, again, that technology is normally used with, the visually impaired. And, but again, I think in some practical cases for the aging population, that certainly is maybe a good technology for them as well. But again, because of the price tag, we're kind of selective, and we kind of wait to hear from those constituents that really think that they could get some value out of it before we recommend it.
Okay. Well, I thought since you're already suggesting the addition, it's always cheaper to do it while you're doing it the first time.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you talk to the guy that lives in the house on the corner. He's going to hear it.
Beep, beep.
Other comments?
Yeah, well, I agree with a lot of what you said, Mayor, so I don't want to be redundant. I still believe that somehow we're missing an opportunity with that other entrance. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know what to say. I really think you need the no left turn. You need signage. And it's just that one vehicle can bring that whole area to a grinding halt. And if we're going to make all these improvements up on the other intersection on Cary Parkway and that, this is still going to be a mess. I remember years ago in New York when they enforced the do not block the intersections, and they said it couldn't be done because, people don't anticipate the light changing, and it just changed the habits in New York. I mean, you just never went into the intersection with the risk of being caught in the intersection when the light changes, during stop and go. And they have heavy fines, and it changed driving behavior in New York. Somehow there's something missing here. I'm frustrated that I just have a feeling there's a lot here. Now, I like the sidewalk. I think that's great. I think we need to protect people. I haven't heard from anyone over there, by the way. The getting up there, I think, would be safer. I think we should still work with, Trader Joe's or that development there about the shorter cut in, pedestrian-wise type of thing. But left turns, and you could argue it's the trucks too. I mean, usually they're not the ones at rush hour, but they have, and it's backed all the way up to Hampton Road and at Farmington Woods. So I don't know the answer. I'd still like to see something about left turn in farther down to the other one, or allowing a left turn out at the other one, which would then start changing habits within, for those that want to take the shortcut into the mall. So at the same time, I respect that there's no one magic solution. So, I mean, I do appreciate, the work being done, but I'm really leery of that left turn lane there, because I don't think that's going to solve anything from, like, I don't know what the hours would be, 4 to 6 or something like that. So I think it's a good idea to table if that's what the neighborhood wants, and explain that, and maybe get a little bit more feedback from them. At the same time, I still think I'd like to see the staff kind of look at if there's a way to kind of tweak this. And I do think if you're going to have a do not block driveway, I think we need to check with the police and see if there's, what is the enforcement that can be had. Because living up in New York at that time, they just insisted that, like, unenforceable, blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you what, didn't take long with those fines. You saw bumper-to-bumper traffic downtown? You never dared go into the intersection until you knew you could get across. I mean, that's kind of a strange phenomena for us down here. We can't think that way, but it changed driving habits.
Other comments?
Well, the staff recommendation seems very reasonable to me, but so does everything that you just said, Harold. Seemed very reasonable. And I guess it points out how complex this is, because you had 10 options, and none of the 10 by themselves even passed staff muster. You came up with 4 and 7 kind of put together, right? So it's obviously a complex situation. I have the feeling it's never going to be perfect, but I would really support. What we wanted was the staff to meet with both the business owners and the property owners. And if the property owners haven't felt totally represented yet, we definitely need to table and get their thoughts.
Mr. Robinson, anything to add?
No, I think it's all been said.
Okay.
Just one last question. Other than the construction of the sidewalk, most everything else is painting the road, right?
Most everything is just, we're going to have to resurface the road so we can get rid of the old markings and put the new ones down. So it's a relatively low cost. The sidewalk is, like I say, probably more expensive. And then, the signal modifications we do up at the intersection with Cary Parkway. And there is a little bit of, because we're making double left turn lanes now, we're going to have to clip off the island a little bit on that. And, maybe the last thing I might want to say about the driveway into the back of Trader Joe's is that's the way, unfortunately, the way their loading dock is arranged. The only way to get in this really conveniently is for them to make a left turn in here and kind of back in, or if you prohibit any type of left turn at all, they have to come in and make a very substantial U-turn. And that driveway entrance is going to have to get reconfigured to make that happen. So it's, again, I think partnering with and listening to the concerns by the shopping center, having some level of freedom to make full movement in there helps their operation standpoint. Now for patrons, again, they could go down to the next entrance and come in that way or leave that way. But really it was more of a focus, I think, for truck operations and trying to balance, everybody's desires out there. So, but we'll be glad to take another look at that. Absolutely.
And one quick question. You check whoever did the study, and sometimes when it gets so busy, what's happening is people are making the right coming out of Trader Joe's, and they just can't get over to make the left, and then they just sit up at the intersection in the right turn lane and wait for the light to change, and that contributes to backing up
Now, this
more
will
people
solve that
too.
problem, so, because you have dual lifts.
Dual lifts.
Yeah,
So that will solve that problem.
so that's the good news about it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think I've heard from all council members that they want.
I'll make a motion if you want.
Oh, exactly. That's what I
I'll
was
make a
going to ask
motion.
for.
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to table. The question I would ask is how long do you think you would need? I'm just curious, not that we're.
I would be hopeful that we could probably bring you this probably in the second meeting in June. I want to give enough opportunity to meet with them and Regency again. Plus, I think I want to, with our staff, explore that provision about, maybe time of day, prohibiting left turns during certain times of day or other things, trying to maybe encourage people to use that second entrance. But I really need to have a dialogue with Regency about that and see if that makes sense. So
And I would love to hear the results of that, and at least personally, I have no desire to harm the businesses at all there. That is not my intent.
Right.
My intent is to make it safer and get those people to use other alternative means to get in there. So, okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Jensen. That takes us to discussion item 6.2, replacement of Crescent Green bridges. Mr. Kuhn will present this item, and council may take action.
Good evening, Council. Due to safety concerns, the two bridges shown in the plan here, the little blue objects, had to be removed. And it provided the existing pedestrian connectivity along Crescent Green. It's a little hard to see the road along there, but Crescent Green does run along there. We've heard from actually a lot of the business owners in that area now that the trail or the sidewalk has been closed, and we've been looking at options to get it replaced. So staff is actually requesting that council appropriate $125,000 of unrestricted general capital reserve fund balance for a mid-year replacement of the Crescent Green Bridge replacement project. I'm available for any questions you may have.
This is an easy one for me. It's broken, let's fix it. It's a quality of life issue, so I don't know how other council members are feeling about that.
Make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion is second, discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. We now move to discussion item 6.3, Cary Tennis Park Renovations Business Award. Once again, Mr. Kuhn will present the item.
We received a total of 3 bids for the construction of the Cary Tennis Park court renovations project. We had a base bid and an alternate. The base bid was to replace courts 6 through 10, which you can see here on the plan. And you can see that it's located between 2 streams. Alternate 1 was to replace courts 3 through 5. 6 through 10 are the courts that are in the worst condition. And actually, courts 9 and 10, sometimes they're unplayable and we can't even rent them. Let's see, courts 3 through 10 were constructed with the original Green Hope High School project in 1998. So the courts are getting near the end of the typical asphalt court lifespan. So let's see. So from a management and construction standpoint, staff is actually recommending that we go ahead and replace all 8 of the courts at the same time. Since it is in that island located between the 2 streams, construction access will actually be from Green Hope High School, and these courts are all of the same age. Staff is making that recommendation. So there's 2 items to award the Cary Tennis Park Court renovation project for the base bid, and alternate 1s to Welch Tennis Court for $863,840, and for council to appropriate $125,000 of general fund balance to PR 11A2 for the project.
Thank you. And I would ask a question just out of curiosity. The issue we have with the creeks is not only above, but below as well.
Yes, the water is actually seeping up through the asphalt.
That causes cracks.
The cracks that are in the asphalt, it's seeping up through those.
Right. I actually play on courts like that once in a while, and you can resurface them all you want. It's a waste of money. It's going to crack. You know, so you got to do it right. It needs to come up. It needs to be fixed. So. Other comments?
My only other comment is I'm kind of shocked that it costs $100,000 to do a tennis court.
It actually costs $863 to do them.
That's for eight.
For all of them, yeah. Oh, you're saying overall?
800,000.
100 each, I see what, each, sorry.
It's very labor intensive.
I didn't, you were saying each, I thought, oh,
So
just
they
wait
have
till you hear how much they all are.
You have to have them exactly level, and then they put the surface on top of it that looks like paint. And they have to make sure that's exactly level. And then the lines, they have to make sure those are exact. I mean, it's a very exact science, and there are particular companies that do this.
And I'm
it's not
still
just general
shocked that it
contractors.
costs over
Yeah.
$100,000 to do a tennis court.
Well, I thought in the, for resurfacing, it's only like 7,500 or something like that. But this is actually rebuilding the course.
I get it.
Right? Is that right?
It's rebuilding it, and it's not asphalt courts, these are post-tension concrete courts. And that's also going to help in this location because the concrete will be pulled together with cables, and that will prevent the water from coming up through the courts like the asphalt's going on. So that's what we're
Just saying,
recommending.
that would be a lot of verts. Just saying. Be a lot of verts.
Should someone be converted to putting greens?
You could probably put on them.
Just from a future perspective, there are 30 courts there. Are we going to have this problem with any of the other courts?
Long-term, we'll need to replace the additional 22 courts or so. So this
But that's
will be ongoing.
resurfacing though, most.
He said
Replacing
replace the
courts
courts.
also.
So just taking his math. So there's going to be another $2 million in tennis court?
Yes.
Oh, in the next, how long?
I think it's in the CIP over the next 10 years.
Okay, good to know.
Or not.
Questions, comments, motion?
I'll just make the quick comment that, we have talked about in our budget just this week, the mounting cost of maintaining what we've created here. And this is a good example of how we've created all these things in the last two votes. That's a ton of money. They're both maintaining what we've already done. We're not enhancing. It's like buying a new vacuum cleaner.
This isn't maintaining, this was not built the right way. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's pretty old.
Or is it not?
It's at the end of the asphalt.
Yeah, it's pretty
Ideally,
old.
it could have lasted
So
a
it
few more
always
years.
costs 100,000?
Well, for the post-tension concrete.
To do it the way we're getting ready to do it. This
So-
is, to just do a standard tennis court without post-tension is not $100,000, no.
So if we were to build a tennis court somewhere else, it would be,
The asphalt courts run around $60,000 a court, and then the post-tension are $100,000. But the other benefit of post-tension is it should have a 50-year lifespan versus the 20-year lifespan of an asphalt court.
okay, so the way we built them originally only had a 20-year lifespan, and the way we're building them now will have a 50-year lifespan. So
They say.
I'm just trying to understand if that's really a maintenance issue or a replacement issue.
I won't be around to call them on it, I guess.
You never know. They'll live forever.
You hope not, 'cause I hope it takes that long to have to redo them.
Okay, I'm not making a motion.
Well, it costs a lot to maintain what we have. That's
Yeah.
the sad statement. I'll make a motion that we approve the bid award.
There's a motion, is there a second? I'll second it, discussion.
I appreciate everything that the Cary Tennis Park brings to the town of Cary. There are so many citizens that use it every single day. I see people, kids and businesses, and we've had multiple amazing tournaments. The staff has done a great job of making this, and I think it used to be a loss, running at a loss, and I think it comes up really close to breaking even, if maybe making money now with all the tennis pros. So I think that one of the things that this tennis center has done for amateur sports in this area is show that you can break even. You know, with enough investment in the people and people paying attention and it driving economy, it's done pretty well. But if we include this break-even point, this almost $1 million, I'm not sure that it is, you know, really breaking even, right? And from an operations perspective, it is. But I think Ben's kind of nodding a little bit. So I think we talk about the great side of tennis, that it brings the economic impact. It's a great quality of life issue. But this is a huge investment in something that, you know, a small part of our population uses. I just hope that if we move forward on this, we think about other populations that are not as well served, because this is a lot of taxpayer dollars for something that I know helps the town, but I didn't see this $1 million come in, and maybe I missed something, but this is just this is a big expense.
Well, just to be clear, parks aren't moneymakers. I mean,
I know they're not moneymakers, but we've been striving with sponsorships and with, I think they've done a great job of trying to break even, right? We're working really hard to break even with Cocoa Booth, right? And SMG's done an amazing job of getting more people involved and bringing the Outback concert series. And we now have other venues that are trying to break even. I get that, but they shouldn't also be a huge weight on all the taxpayers too. As much as we can do to help alleviate the cost to the taxpayer, we should be doing. Maybe this means more sponsorships. I'd like to see staff bring us sponsorship for some of the courts, right? Let's call it the France Automotive Tennis Court, you know? Not that, sorry, I just make it up. You know, the SAS Championship Court. I'd love to see other ways for us to bring money in so it's not such a big expense on taxpayers.
The question is that something we should move forward with as an initiative? And what do we do about this for now?
I know, I'm just.
you're going to have courts that are not going to be usable after a while if you let them go. That's the bottom line. You got to fix them or not.
Right,
I think the
And
important.
you've already invested in them. I mean, it seems a shame to throw them out,
Stuck.
so.
Well, I think the lesson here is going forward, every time we approve capital expenditure for new venue of any kind of amenity, we need to also understand at the time of that decision what the future maintenance costs will be, so that we understand what
The lifespan.
The lifespan and what we are burdening our future budgets with.
And I'm sure we do that in depreciation value. I'm sure there's a depreciation value on every piece of capital we have. I'm looking around, staff's not going to back me.
They're nodding.
Plausible deniability.
So, but I think this is in excess of the depreciation, like Councilmember Bush pointed out. So, I mean, I think it's one you've got to do to maintain the level of play or the level of the venue. If you don't, then the venue suffers, and maybe you end up shutting down those courts and you have less courts at this site.
Well,
I think that's where we're headed if we don't move forward. So, anyway, if we have a
Yeah.
motion.
Well,
Sorry?
sometimes you just have to hold your nose and vote some of these things. Go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. France?
I just did have a question to follow up on Ms. Bush's. I mean, we talked about naming rights and stuff on a lot of the town facilities, what, a couple of years or so ago? Have we floated this one to anybody, or?
Steph's still working on it, I think, last time I talked.
We have a company that we've retained that we're working with. In fact, there are some they've just recently brought to us that we'll be bringing forward fairly
so
shortly.
We're working on it.
Yeah, I can't tell you right now if a tennis court is involved, but there are some other features around town that we have offers on the table, so.
Okay.
Council will see that shortly.
I could see France Automotive
No, you
Park,
can't, no. Because when you get those private dollars, you know, you can leverage, it just makes it a little easier. I mean, I'm going to reluctantly support the motion. I mean, it's a phenomenal facility, and we need to keep it a phenomenal facility. So citizens love it. They enjoy it. I really hope these things last 50 years. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. think Mr. Kuhn's got another one. He's still standing there. Item 6.4, Skate 8 Park Master Plan. Mr. Kuhn will once again present this item.
All right. The master plan that we are presenting this evening is the vision plan for where the town would like to see this facility go in the future. We officially began the process this fall of 2014. I'd like to share some brief background information on the process and how the three options were developed based on the planned operation by PRCR of the facility. The plan was initiated due to the vert ramp request during the FY15 budget request. As part of the master plan process, we actually stepped back and took a broad look at all different kinds of ramps and amenities that are in skate parks and those type of action parks. And also compared to other facilities within the state and region just to see what other facilities were doing. We had 2 public meetings, had over 166 surveys completed. In addition, we had several meetings with parents and neighbors and presented the options to the PRCR Advisory Board. Skate Cary opened in 2002. It's a unique facility in that it's not common for these types of facilities to be supervised. This makes the facility attractive to families, and as they know that the rules will be enforced by staff, and the facility currently, the highest element is 9 feet high, and that'll come into play in a minute. On the screen, you can see a list of 5 goals that were developed as we were working through the master plan. And these were used to help develop each of the options that we came up with and develop the operational goals. Being financially feasible, having a full spectrum of ramps for learning opportunities and training, hosting demonstrations, and being family-oriented are the key elements of the goals. 3 options were developed, and I'll be showing you the actual plans of them here in a moment. The options were based on the ultimate operational goals of the facility. On the screen is also some of the pros and cons of the vert ramp. As we were developing this plan, we knew that the vert was an element that would require careful analysis, and we spent a significant amount of time researching other facilities. Vert ramps are 13 feet high, and then one of the concerns we had was the transition from the current highest feature of 9 feet to 13 feet, and be able to teach users how to ride it. This is one of the reasons why on the options we don't show the vert until later on when we have more of a transition. Also in our research, we were not able to find numbers to support a vert ramp at our facility. So the pictures that we're showing are representative, especially for us non-skate park users, to understand kind of what we're talking about in the areas. This is not intended to be the final design or anything of what it would be. But this basically is option A, and we've called it the ramp replacement, and it fits within the existing 12,000 square foot footprint that is out there. You can see a beginner area is up near the front, near the pro shop, and then a more advanced area in the back, so you can actually separate the users by skill level, which currently staff has done some of that out at the existing facility, but would like to see more of that to improve the safety. And then from a plan standpoint, here again in the center is the existing skate park, and this is the pro shop building. And just to orient you, here's the basketball courts. The dog park is over on the other side. You have the Black Creek Greenway coming through, and the Maynard Road's up here at the top. So this option basically stays within the existing footprint that is on the site with some minor expansions of the building and the skate ramps up in a landscape area that's currently. Option 2 basically builds upon option A that we had, but adds a second pad with more pump line, jump track, and a foam pit. And then this option also is covered with a roof. A roof is actually one of the very important things, but just because of the price tag, it actually got pushed further into the options just due to the cost of that option. In plan, you can see basically it adds this big slab on the side close to the basketball courts in order to get that additional space in there. And then option C is the action park plus vert. So basically it's B, and we have the vert up at the very top of the site closest to the parking lot and Maynard Road, which you can see again here is the location of it. So each of the options build on each other. So as a vision document, staff is recommending option B, the Action Park, as the preferred future plan for the Escape Carry facility based on the operational goals. So with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Let's see if I can phrase the question. The way I understand this is a master plan, and in the master plan, funding is scheduled. You're recommending option B, I get that, and it's 1 to 8, 2.7 doesn't mean we're funding it this year in this year's budget, and it's going to happen next year, no matter what we do. I understand that. Taking money aside, would we ever recommend option C, which is the vert ramp? I heard you talk about transition. I heard you talk about the numbers don't support it. Of course, we're hearing from people that it does, so we got that to weigh. And then the operational goals. I would like you to, if you can, elaborate a little bit more than that, excluding the money piece, because I want to know if this fits in this park, why or why not.
So
The vert ramp.
Why the vert ramp does or does not fit.
Right. Excluding money.
Excluding money.
And then we can talk about the money later.
Part of it is because of the transitions of a 9-foot, we currently have a 9-foot high, highest ramp, and so being able to get to a 13-foot. Obviously, as it was mentioned, you could design into the vert ramp a way to transition up so that people can learn how to drop into that area. So that's an option. But I think what we were looking at was if you, and it went back to the money piece of it, if you had $400,000 to $500,000 to spend, where would we spend that money? We felt like there were other items that would come before the vert ramp that would help a more diverse range of skateboarders in the park, rather than the vert ramp, which is more for advanced level skaters.
Let me follow up with that, and then I'm going to stop and let council members have it. So you did throw the money piece in there. So let's talk further than 5 years. Why wouldn't you have it out further than 5 years? Why not a vert ramp ever?
Why
Does
not?
it just not fit here, and why doesn't it fit here?
I think if money was no issue, we'd put a vert ramp in.
Okay.
So.
Simple enough. That's
Oh, there you go, all right.
But we know there's a lot of needs out there with the town, as we just talked about the tennis park and greenway repairs and things along that there's a lot of needs out there.
Okay.
So in talking with the advisory board, they had concerns.
So it's
in
prioritization.
Prioritization.
Okay, I got it.
But if you kind of did this in phases and went with, say, a C, you could maybe actually do the vert ramp first, and then some of the other stuff a few years out instead, and kind of do it in phases, right?
Most likely, this would be done in phases as we do it. They're probably, just from a operational standpoint, we may be looking at other items to do first. There's some ramp replacement. Some of the ramps out there, again, are getting old. They're out in the elements, and we're going to need to replace them anyways. So we may actually need to do those sooner than that. And that was part of the reason why, if we could get a roof over it, it would protect the existing wood ramps that are out there, keep the rain and those elements on there. So part of it does come back to the kind of the financial viability goal that was set out there is, okay, which one is going to serve the most diverse range of users, beginner to more advanced users, and be able to get the options out there within budgets and abilities that we're able to.
Well, and we appreciate that. I mean, we always love it when you bring us options and we can pick which one we think best fits and suits the community. So, so I do appreciate that. I really do. I love the idea of putting a roof on the facility. I really do. Not only does it help protect things, it ensures we can use it 365 if we want to. So that would also help as far as trying to generate a little extra revenue. But I go back to the mayor's comments earlier. You know, our parks aren't necessarily designed to make money. We do like them to try to make as much as they can. But at the end of the day, they're more of a quality of life and an amenity for our citizens versus a moneymaker. So I do want to just make I want to let some other people speak too. I don't have any other questions, but just a few comments. And that was based on some of the things I heard in the public speak out portion of the meeting. And that folks maybe didn't quite feel that their voice was being heard. You know, that they've been coming to us for 2-3 years now and asking for improvements and or a vert ramp, which really pretty much the vert ramp. The reason we're talking about this tonight is because we have heard you. This wasn't council's idea to direct staff to go master plan the skate park. Yes, we've spent a lot of money on downtown and a theater and the art center and things like that, but do please keep in mind that those things were also planned for 5, 6, 7 years ago. And like everything else in the town and competing priorities and financials, we finally got around to doing them. So I don't want you all to think that we've kind of been pushing you off. It's things with government for some reason takes forever. And it's always been frustrating to me. I actually understand totally where y'all are coming from as far as skating and BMX being a sport. I grew up in Southern California, so I actually, when I was a kid, raced ABA, BMX, surfed, skateboarded, until my dad brought me home a dirt bike with an engine in it. And ever since then, I never pedaled a thing again in my life, but, and now I race stock cars. So, which if y'all need something to do Saturday night, come to Wake County Speedway and watch me race.
Does that mean you're going to suggest a race plug
Yeah,
track?
yeah. Actually, if I could have, if I was king of Cary, we'd have a racetrack in downtown.
King of Cary.
But that said, so.
Go ahead.
So I totally get, and I think we all do, that there's a lot of sports out there besides soccer, baseball, basketball, you know, the typicals that you see. That said, the reality is also that not as many kids play these or, you know, participate in some of these non-traditional sports, but there is definitely a need. I'm of the opinion that if we are going to do something, we do it the Cary way. Just like we have at Coca Booth and the Art Center and a lot of other things, if we're, you know, let's do it right. I support the vert and the action part. I actually like option C. Where I kind of don't know or struggle with a little bit is how and when we do each piece. Do you do the vert first and then do the action stuff later? Do you do the roof and the vert? That I think is a discussion that obviously either given during budget or whatever, that we have to figure that out. But I don't really see much of a difference other than dollars between B and C besides the vert. The citizens that have come to us and asked us for these improvements, the one thing they have asked for is the vert. And I kind of almost think that if we didn't do a lot of the other stuff and just did the vert, they'd be thrilled. So that's kind of what my focus is on. I'm still stunned it's a $400,000 or $500,000 thing. Everything else we've looked into in other areas, it didn't seem to come out that expensive, but I could go for option C. We just got to figure out how and when to pay for it.
Ms. Robinson?
Okay. Well, I want to make sure that everybody in the audience understands that if we approve the master plan, this is not funding the master plan.
Right.
This is only saying that this is a vision that we can get around. You know, the second thing is, you know, the comments were made earlier about us funding other venues. I want to make sure everybody understands, if they're looking at the budget, that the source of revenue for the funding of the Wake Med Soccer Park, the tennis park, and USA Baseball was from the hotel meals funds. So that's coming from a tax that's generated and collected at the county level and then dispersed for projects that have the potential to grow tourism in our area. So that's the source of funding for those projects. And I think it's important for us to distinguish that as we go forward and look at different projects. You know, the other thing I'd say is, you know, Castle is a nonprofit organization that has also been contributing to the development of our soccer fields. And that's a very important thing. So even though it may appear to someone who's glancing at the budget that we have a ton of money, we don't have a ton of money for our population, for the standards that our population has for its resources. We don't have a lot of excess money. So every time we go through a budget process, we are very carefully picking out the highest priority items. With that said, I like option C. I really think it's critical that we, at some point, get a roof over the park. We have too many camps that go on and get delayed, and kids sitting idle on picnic benches because, under the shelter, because they can't skate, and that's wrong. We should use that amenity to its greatest potential. I would love to see our staff go out proactively and seek any kind of company that wants to do naming rights and wants to participate. I would feel much better about putting money toward a vert, and I wouldn't mind flipping and doing vert first before we get to roof and BMX and all that other stuff. I'd be fine with that. But what would really compel me to do it is if we had some kind of major sponsorship that was going to bring money in, if we had several events that could be lined up that would show how it's going to, generate activity for our community. But there's things that need to be done. If we put this in our plan, there are things that need to be done to make a compelling case for funding. And I think those things can be achieved, but it's not going to be on the council's shoulders to accomplish it. It's going to be on the private sector. It's going to be on you to take care of it and, our dynamic staff, but it's not going to be on the council's shoulders to try to invent this. This would be on you. And it's very similar to what we see in other opportunities in Cary. So with that said, I would support our vision being C, and I'd like to hear what other people have to say. Do you want to go first?
I support C also. The only thing that was going to push me off of C tonight was if during the staff report you were going to tell me that Godbold Park was just absolutely wrong for a vert ramp, that there was something there from a topography standpoint or a room standpoint. I think that was the question you were getting at right in the beginning, Mayor. If there was something like that that was really going to just say this is not the place for it, I'm sorry, then I would understand that. But everything else being said, and boy, what you said there, Jennifer and Don, great comments. I echo all of it. And I think from a master plan or a vision standpoint, which is separate from money, C certainly makes sense. Again, the order in which you do this, and everybody wants the vert ramp more than they want the other thing. So, doesn't matter to me. I think we got to be sensible, but I would support C unless somebody can convince me otherwise.
Jack?
Maybe Jack.
Well, I'm not going to be able to convince you otherwise, or the rest of you, but, I was actually quite enthused over option A. And
I'm so surprised.
yeah, I know. But I think, our job is to look at the broader appeal. We have a nice skate park. Can we turn it into something bigger than that serves a different need to a limited population? I don't know. You all believe it? I respect that opinion, but I think it serves a niche need right now, and that we can't be all things to all people. And, I'll say my piece just so that you've heard it, but I think it's, we do routine maintenance, we keep it the way it is. The one point I will say is, if there's some, by going with B and the action park and having some cover, I think that's a compelling argument, and I appreciate you sharing that. But I think, I really think we're overreacting to the option C. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I wanted to also thank the citizens for their passion and their patience, which I'm sure is waning. I think that they learned several things from this experience, and I'm really thrilled that so many of them brought their children, because I think what they learned is that we did listen, because we wouldn't even be having this conversation, as Councilmember France said, if you hadn't come to us. I think the other thing they learned is that governing takes time. And now you probably understand why some of us put our head in our hands is, how long have we been talking about this? And the third one is that sometimes you have to make compromises. which I think we all learn when we take this role. Those of us that are newer to it learn it a little bit harder than some of the others. And I was getting ready to say something that Councilmember Robinson said as well, is help us with you putting some skin in the game. I think that's what we see with the soccer fields in Castle, have put their skin in the game. They obviously use it to make revenue, but several of the other organizations that use the fields, when the folks came and wanted pickleball, many of those pickleball folks are volunteering, right? They're raising money. They're helping, they're bringing their talents, their time and talents. Help us, you organize to get here, keep that organization in play. Reach out to the Tony Hawk Foundation. I've did a little bit of research before coming here. They bring money to bear to a lot of the skate parks across the country. Help us make this better and help us put the priorities the way you want. I have to say that one of the things I was interested in, no matter what, if we're doing maintenance, we have to do option A or it becomes a useless park, right? I was kind of surprised that we didn't have an option D that was just the vert, that was ramp replacement and the vert, not with the action park, because it sounded like from what they brought to us, that was their most important thing. Obviously the roof as well. So I'm also in support of option C. I'd love to see us take this forward and have something that has a real public-private partnership, because their engagement, your engagement is going to make this, I hope you prove us wrong. I hope your activity shows us that this is going to make a real economic impact. So I guess I'll make a motion that we move forward with option C for the master plan.
I'll make
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
No, I just said second.
Oh, okay. The only other question I would have with option C, do you anticipate that drawing more need for parking? And is that going to be an issue?
We looked at the parking, and a lot of the current skate park users are drop-off and things. It's going to be tight at that point, but we don't anticipate a substantial need of parking.
Well, I think where you have a problem with parking is if we actually built a fantastic, best vert on the southeast or something, we might be having national tournaments, regional tournaments.
For tournaments, that's a different story.
But we've also
for
got
day-to-day use.
the school parking across the street. You've got Lowe's very close nearby. You've got a lot of other places that just like we work with the SAS championship and everything else, we can manage, I think. Regardless, I don't think you're going to have 500 people a day coming to this thing. I don't care what it's got. Now, on Saturdays and Sundays, I hope it's really busy. So I think that stuff can be worked out, but, I would agree with some of the other comments, Ms. Robinson and Ms. Bush, regarding, private investment and sponsorship dollars especially, that if we are genuinely building something or plan to build something that there's nothing else like it around, then I would really hope we worked hard to secure sponsorship, private funding, somebody call EA Sports or Monster Energy or something, and, see if we can get some private dollars for this. If we had tournaments, not to say like ESPN X Games or something, but, national TV dollars. I mean, I don't know. Would really make this a lot easier and, quite frankly, would make it happen a lot sooner.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I just want to emphasize one more time, this is a plan. This is not funding. This is only a plan. Only a plan.
Which we hope to execute in the near future.
Right.
In the future.
Yeah, in the future.
Okay, we have a...
Near being defined as government.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 5-1. Thank you, Ms. Kuhn.
Thank you.
We now move to Aging Task Force Report, discussion item 6.5. Mr. Overton will present the item, and council may take action.
Good evening, council. Staff has reviewed the findings from the Aging Issues Task Force final report, which you have included in your staff report. Staff has received input from the ISAB, and staff recommends establishing more focused information on senior issues, programs, and initiatives on the town's website, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Yerha.
Oh, it was a very quick report.
Because we all read the staff report.
Of course, we all read this, so we do read it. I want to thank you not only for your quick report tonight, but for your quick turnaround in your whole review of this aging task force report. That was just in January. We talk about how long it takes for government to do things, and this was pretty good, 4 months to come back with a review. And it wasn't just Mr. Overton doing it. You engaged, I know, a lot of departments from the town and also the ISAB, which I really want to thank them for their involvement. I second everything the ISAB says about the website. One thing I think about, I think of the new sustainability webpage that we have. If you just search sustainability on the search bar, you come across a page with all kinds of icons, and every sustainable environmental program the town has is included there. That was not that way just a few months ago. You had to go searching here, there, and everywhere. And I think that would be the same thing with this. Right now, you kind of have to search Parks and Recs, you have to search transportation. If something could be consolidated, that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. The sustainability page is not real fancy. It's kind of primitive from a web standpoint, but it's easy to navigate and it works. So I think something like that could be done fairly soon. I was wondering, one question I had from a print standpoint when we talk about communication, because communication was the major issue up from the Aging Issues Task Force report. From a non-web standpoint, from a print standpoint, I know the Creative Active Retirement Years, it's a great book that the town puts out 3 times a year, I believe. We put that in libraries, we put that in certain stores, I guess, that allow it in their packs. We certainly have it at town facilities, so on and so forth. Do we ever put those in or ask to be allowed to put those in some of the senior living communities, like, you know, Del Webb or Searstone? Or, I mean, they're private things, and maybe they don't want to be cluttered up with town stuff, but
I believe we
if they
do, but I
did-
might look at Mr. McCraney to see.
We do? Okay, because I know that was something we talked about on the task force, and I remember there being some volunteers
Yes.
on the task force that said they would be happy 3 times a year to go out and deliver these things if needs be. So if we're doing that, that's great, and if we want to, there's a way to increase that, I think that would be
We can look at
helpful, too. And the last thing I have to say, you have in your long-term issues, a possible staff resource or a staff person for senior issues. And I really strongly support that, certainly not for this budget year, but as we prepare for next budget year or beyond, I really think we would get quite a reward from that if we had a person, even a part-time person, doesn't have to be a full-time position to start with, to kind of corral all of these issues and be a resource person. I think we would really get our money's worth from that. So I would urge the staff to look at that as we consider staffing positions and funding for budget year 17 and beyond. Otherwise, I think the report was great, your review was great, and I appreciate it. Unless there's other comments, I'm happy to make a motion to approve your recommendations for TM 15008A, the Aging Issues Task Force.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Oh, one other thing that came up in the ISCB, and I was glad to see it here, was to some people, it's a surprise that people who don't get a water bill don't get the BUD. So they don't know about great activities that are going on. And a lot of those people are in nursing homes, senior centers, assisted living, et cetera. So that was why the ISAB suggested a really robust senior page, because a lot of people do look for that information, come to the web page, type in seniors or activities or calendars. And so a lot of us that get a water bill see that. But a lot of people, there's actually quite, I think it's, I forgot, there's 70 apartment buildings, I believe, in the town of Cary. So none of those people get the BUD. So, and a lot of those apartments are becoming more and more filled with seniors as they downsize. So just thought I'd share that.
Good point.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Overton.
Thank you.
Before I entertain a motion to go into closed session, we have a member of staff that's been on the Cary staff for many, many years, been a great public service servant, Ricky Barker, and he's going to bigger and better things, and we wish you the best of luck. But we're going to miss you. You've done a great job, and I don't know how to say thank you better than thank you for all that you've done for the town. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to GS 143, 31811A1 and 3, I move that we hold a closed session to consult with attorneys employed by and/or retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorneys and the town, and 2, to prevent the disclosure of information that is made privileged or confidential by GS 143-318-10E.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in closed session. Thank you. We'll reconvene, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
He just likes doing that gavel.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.